Well, hello and welcome. This is Martin with MyIeltsTutor, India and the Internet's premium online IELTS tutorial service. I want to welcome you today. Before I start, make sure you follow us here on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram for exclusive 8-band tips and strategies that can help you score high on the IELTS exam. Today I'm going to talk about paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is an important skill that you need for IELTS. And so let's get started. I'm going to talk about how to improve your paraphrasing. Some of you already understand what paraphrasing is, but today we're going to talk more about how to paraphrase. And so let's get started. Now, let's talk about the importance of paraphrasing. It's an important aspect of lexical resources for both speaking and writing. And today I'm primarily going to focus on writing, but everything I say still applies to speaking as well. So remember, mostly I'm going to talk about is primarily for writing, but you can easily apply it to speaking. Now, the next thing is successful paraphrasing can increase your band score, and this is important. Because to score 7 above, you must demonstrate the ability to paraphrase, okay? In band 6, you should be able to paraphrase, but you're not quite good. But 7, your paraphrases should be successful, okay? So, and remember, lexical resources is one of the criteria that is scored for both speaking and writing. Now, as I mentioned previously, it is important for both writing and speaking. So again, I just reiterate, and that's a good vocabulary word for you, it means to restate, to reiterate, speaking and writing. To score high, you must be able to show that you can paraphrase. Okay, now, what are you expected to paraphrase? For writing, you're pretty much expected to paraphrase the topics from the essay prompt, as well as the viewpoints that are presented in those too. So that's what you're expected. For speaking, you're basically expected to paraphrase the cue card, the general questions, and the follow-up questions. You don't necessarily have to do that, but at least the cue card, you should be able to paraphrase that. Now, paraphrasing is important for reading and listening. This is because the key words in the questions and options are paraphrases of what's said in the text and in the audio. So if you can write, if you can speak, if you can create a good paraphrase, you should be able to identify another paraphrase. Okay? That's another important reason why it is so important to develop this skill. Alright, now let's move on. What is paraphrasing? Probably, many of you are probably thinking it's just rewriting something in my own words. Well, you're pretty much correct. But it's your interpretation of what is stated, okay? And there's two things that you need to consider. First, the points to remember are these, and that's what I'm talking about, what you need to remember. A paraphrase has the same meaning as the original sentence, as the original. You're not changing the meaning at all. Okay, this is really important. The next thing is you don't leave out any important information, okay? So anything that's important, first of all, you have to decide what's important, what's the essence of what's being said, and then you keep that. Anything else you can leave out. So again, it has the same meaning, it doesn't leave out important information. Now, so this means what? You must be careful when paraphrasing, otherwise, and this is a big thing, you can change or obscure meaning, make the meaning of the sentence not being able to be understood. Okay, so if you're not careful, you can change the meaning to mean something different, or reading it, it may not be understood. All right, or you can leave out important information. That's another thing. So you can have one of these or both of these. So you have to be careful in paraphrasing. Now, how can you improve paraphrasing? Well, here are some key things that you can do to help you paraphrase better. First, we can use synonyms. And most people know this, understand this. You want to use synonyms. Now, keep in mind that you don't need to replace all the words. It's just not necessary. And I'm going to show you why later. You also want to avoid errors, because remember, you don't want to change the meaning. You don't want to leave out important information. The thing you can do is change the words to a different form. I'll explain that. You can also change the sentence structure. And that's another good way of doing that too. And then finally, use a combination of these. So use synonyms, change word forms, changing sentence structures. And I'll show you how to do that as well. Okay, now, using synonyms. We have here our example. Some young people, and I got all my examples from IELTS essay prompts, just so you know. Just to show you how you can paraphrase these in all the different ways. So, here's our example. Some people like to copy the behavior and clothes of famous people today. So, using synonyms, you know, there's some phrases we want to change, or some words. For instance, young people, behavior and clothes, famous people. What words or phrases can we come up for those? Any ideas? Young people. Youth, maybe? Teenagers? Young adults? For behavior and clothes, maybe style and fashions? How about famous people? Celebrities, perhaps? Okay, so let's see what we can come up with. Now, here I chose youths to cover young people. It's a good one to use for young, and really describes young people. It generally refers to teenagers and people in their 20s and such. Mannerisms, that's a good one for behavior. Style is a good one for clothing. We can also use fashion. And then, of course, celebrities is a great one for famous people. Now, paraphrases. Now we paraphrase this. Now, so we say, many youths want to adopt the mannerisms and styles of celebrities. Now, I don't say today because I write it in the present tense and it's already known that this is going on right now. Okay, so now let's move on. Now, this is an important point. Not all words can be paraphrased, and that's coming into our next point. So, no need to replace all the words. One of the reasons, you know, as I just said, is you can't paraphrase all the words. And eventually I will get into why. Now, as I said before, you need to be selective when deciding to change your words. It's really important that you are, okay? First of all, not all words or phrases can be paraphrased. There's just no effective paraphrase synonym for that. So, for instance, and then, you know, also, if you change every word, this could result in a lower score because, you know, you've altered the meaning. You changed the meaning of the sentence. So, for example, today many people use the internet and smartphones to transfer money to friends, family, and businesses. Okay? So let's look at this. Now, for instance, people. What synonyms could we use for people? Humans, crowds. I've seen students use crowds, masses, population, persons, individuals. We could potentially use individuals, but individuals could be anything. Remember, the key here is to be more precise with your synonyms. And that's a key point here, because it goes back in saying that, you know, you're looking for precise meaning. So, as I said, the synonym may not be precise in meaning. Okay, so what do we use for people instead of people? Well, the best thing to do is people, because it's really precise. It's the thing to go to here. Okay, so what about internet? Well, we could use network, but network is really vague. Are we talking about a network of people? Are we talking about a network of computers, an office network or a home network? Are we talking about a network of affiliated television stations or radio stations? It's really vague, so we can't really use network, although network could be synonymous with internet. But the internet's so specific, we really do not want to paraphrase that. So basically we can paraphrase this as, so we're taking many to large numbers of people are using devices, and so smartphones is now translated to devices that are linked to the internet to make financial transactions. And so transfer money is to make, we paraphrase that into make financial transactions. And we don't need to include friends, family, and businesses, because that's all covered with that one phrase, make financial transactions. Okay, so, and that's another thing. If you have a list like that in the original, you don't need to use it. Okay, you don't need to include everything that's in a list like we have in our original sentence. You can make a blanket phrase such as make financial transactions, and you have that covered. Okay, so friends, family, and businesses are a good example of information that you don't need. Everything else you do need. Okay, so let's move on. Now, you want to avoid errors, so, and like I said, not all words and phrases can or should be changed, okay? And the reason why is this, and I think I touched on it, but just to recap, there may be no effective synonyms. Like I said, internet. We can't really put that into a synonym, create an adequate synonym for that, okay? So, and then a synonym may not have, this is another important point, a synonym may not have the exact same meaning for the context of the sentence, okay? And context means the situation. So it doesn't quite fit the situation. And so remember, you're looking for precise meaning, and you have to have a word that fits the precise meaning. So internet fits that, and our last one, people, fits that. So if you do that, if you put in a synonym where you shouldn't, it's going to change the meaning or confuse the meaning, okay? Now, let's take the word human, for example, okay? Now, you have a lot of different essay prompts that will use the word human, okay? Now, synonyms for humans would be people, maybe individuals, persons, population. If it's plural, if humans are plural, same thing. We can use communities if it's plural. So those are possible synonyms. But let's take this particular example. Human activities such as illegal hunting and overfishing have reduced animal populations to the point of extinction. So the question is, do we want to change this to people? First of all, do we say people activities? We could say people have engaged in activities such as, we could do that. But should we change this? If we're not going to change the structure of the sentence, no, we shouldn't. Actually, we really can't use it. Now I'm thinking about it, we really can't change it. It's going to be difficult, but you could, but you'd have to change the structure. So, but in this case, we really can't change it. As I said, in this example, we can't. Now, in example 2, we have humans. Some believe that humans should fully adopt the culture of their community, whereas others place more importance on preserving original customs. Now, we can't use humans here because if we go back to the first example, humans, and then we're kind of talking about referring to other species, in terms of hunting and fishing, okay? So we're differentiating humans from other species in that first one, human activities. Now the first one, humans just doesn't work here because, first of all, it's not natural. You will never find a native speaker speaking like this in terms of natural speech or natural writing. So we have to really, the question is, should we change this? And the answer is definitely yes. We should change this because humans, there's no distinction between other species in this particular sentence. So we need to change this, and we should use people. So some people believe, okay? So these are two examples of where, where it's not, where we should change and where we shouldn't change. Okay, now let's move on. And so that's how we can avoid errors. So remember, avoiding errors, we want to keep in mind that not every word can or should be changed. First of all, whether or not there's an effective synonym, and synonym fits the context. Okay, now let's move on. Now changing words to a different form. Now we can change a noun to an adjective, or a verb to a noun, or an adjective to an adverb, and an adverb to an adjective. We can change that. So for example, in some parts of the world, traditional festivals and celebrations have disappeared or are disappearing. So we can change this. We can change traditional. Traditional is an adjective, but we can change this to an adverb. Okay? So in our paraphrase, in many areas, certain holidays which are traditionally observed are dying out. So that's how we can change that. Now, besides changing the word form, we can also change the sentence structure, and this is important. And I really recommend that you start off this way, too, because it makes writing the paraphrase easier. So, now how can we do this? How can we change the sentence structure? First of all, we can change the arrangement of clauses. For example, we have here, some people have argued that countries should interfere less in the affairs of other nations. But we can change that to, some nations should reduce their involvement in the affairs of other countries, is strongly suggested by a number of people. Okay? So in here we changed some words in terms of synonyms, and then we rearranged the clauses. So we start with, we end with some people, and we begin with nations interfering. So we change that. Now another way is to change the sentence from active voice to passive voice, or passive voice to active voice. Generally, most IELTS topic sentences are generally active voice. I don't believe I've come across any that are passive voice, but if you do, you can change it to active voice. But generally, you'll be changing from active to passive. Now, what is passive voice? I'm not going to go into it too much, but just to recap, passive voice starts with the object, the person or thing that's receiving the action, then the verb, and then the subject, the person or thing that is doing the action. Okay? So we have here an example. Older people often choose to spend money on themselves rather than save money for their children after retirement. So older people are the subject, spending money is the verb, and then money is the object. Okay, so now our paraphrase is this: rather than saving for their children after retiring, money has frequently been spent on a personal whim by adults, or it should be on personal whims by adults. Okay, that would be more grammatically correct. So but there you go. That's changing active voice to passive voice. Now using a combination of techniques. And this is really where it really works, when you use a combination of techniques. And you probably noticed that some of the examples I used are combination of techniques. For instance, it's the most frequently used way of making a paraphrase. So, for examples, we have our original. In some parts of the world, traditional festivals and celebrations have disappeared or are disappearing. The paraphrase here is, in many areas, certain holidays which are traditionally observed are dying out. So what techniques did we use? We changed the synonyms and we changed the word form. And that's what we did. Now, here, older people choose to spend money on themselves rather than save money for their children after retirement. That's from our last slide. We changed this from active voice to passive voice. We have here, rather than saving money after retiring, money has frequently been spent on personal whims by adults. We have chosen changing the sentence structure, active to passive, and then we've changed the word form, and then we've used synonyms. So that's how you can do this. This is how you can really improve the sentence structure. And the goal is to make it different, not in terms of meaning, but different from the original. Okay? You don't really want to copy the sentence structure too much. Okay, you don't want to have the sentence structure too close to the original. And by using a combination of these techniques, you can get it to where it's different, but the meaning's clear, and you don't leave out the essential information. So, now, to review, how can we improve? So, we use synonyms. Keep in mind that replacing all words is not necessary, and then we work to avoid errors, because as you know, avoiding errors not lower your band score, sorry. If you don't, then you're likely to change the meaning, leave out important information, that will lower your band score. But if you avoid errors and you're careful in selecting which word not to change, not to add, replace with a synonym, then you're more likely going to have a higher band score. Of course, you can change words to a different form. You can change the sentence structure of the original sentence, and then use a combination of these, and don't be afraid. That's it for today. I want to thank you guys for joining me. Be sure to follow us here on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook for more tips and strategies for all aspects of IELTS, for all IELTS modules. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.